Well, welcome to another premiere. And that was kind of fun to open with that little advertisement clip showing how they would have promoted machines and the sewing centers for Singer back in the day. All right, let's get some lights on and take a look at what's on this workbench over here. And also, before I forget to do it, the beginning of class. Well, on the workbench, we've got two machines. The one on the right belongs to my friend, Jean Van Dyke, who brought the machine to the workshop because she had acquired it and she just had some concerns about whether or not it was right. And as we eventually migrate over to Facebook and look at the progress shots, you'll see that her suspicions were spot on. A lot of needs for this machine. Now I'm going to give you a little opportunity to show how smart you are right at the outset of this premiere, and that is by looking up the serial number for these two machines. The one on the right again is Jean's machine, and the serial number is A as in Apple, J as in John, 108904. AJ 108904. The machine on the left is from my personal collection, and the serial number is E as in Edward, N as in Nancy, 135199. So again, EN 135199. Now you can tell straight away, even by the serial numbers, that these machines are from different necks of the wood. Jean's machine, starting with a series of AJ, right away tells you that it was a US made machine. And if you've already looked it up, because I know you're really smart and really quick, you'll find out that the machine was born March 15th, 1949. It's a 221. Now the cool thing is, these first came on the scene back in 1933-34. And I say the 2 years because it was introduced at the Chicago World's Fair. And that World's Fair ran from 1933 all the way into 1934. So that's where the debate opens on, okay, was the 221 introduced in 1933 or was it introduced in 1934? Yes. It was both years. It was introduced because the World's Fair where it was introduced ran for 2 years, or I should say through 2 years, from 33 until 34. So if you say 33 or 34, you're not wrong. Now if you get into some of these little Facebook groups where everybody always thinks that they have the sole and singular answer, you might get into some debate with them, which might be kind of fun. But at any rate, Jean's machine again is from 1949. Now, if you look over at my machine on the left, which comes from my personal collection, it's a 222K, which was the featherweight convertible, the featherweight free arm. And that serial number, if you were able to look it up, will tell you that my machine was born on March 17th, 1958. Now the featherweight 222K was first introduced in 1953. And so that means my machine came on the scene about 5 years later. Also in 1953 is when Singer first started adding this little plate below the Singer branding medallion, identifying what the specific model of that Singer machine was. That happened in 1953, the same year that they introduced the 222K. So kind of a cool benchmark, if you will, for remembering when the 222K came on the scene. And if you can't remember that, then just remember, when did they start introducing these little plates that had the model on them? Same year, 1953. Now the 222K, unlike Jean's machine, was only made in Kilbowie, Scotland. Now the tricky part of that declarative statement is a number of machines that were made in Kilbowie, Scotland were finished in Canada, and then they were imported into the US. The 222K was never imported into the US. It was sold only overseas in the European marketplace. Any of the machines that eventually made their way into the US made their way into the US because of those owners that brought them over here. The 221 was not only made in the US, like Jean's machine, it was made in the UK, it was made in Canada. Featherweights were made all over the place. And during the production season that they made featherweights, which again was from right around 1933-34 until 1957, they made almost 3 million of them. During the production cycle of the 222K, the one on the left, which ran for 8 years, they only made about 100,000 of those machines, like mine on the left. So you can compare it, as far as the rarity factor, because it doesn't take long to travel to some of the Facebook groups and right away hear the peacocks strutting. Featherweight owners are very proud, and they should be, but they shouldn't be cocky about it, because they'll start talking about how rare their featherweight is, when in reality they made about 3 million of those machines during the production season from 1933-34 until 1957. The 222K, during an 8-year period, they only made about 100,000 of the machines. Some people will say 110,000. Even if you go with 110,000, compare it to 3 million. And again, when we talk a lot about group production sizes on this channel, I'll mention, for example, like with Jean's machine on the right. Jean's production group size for her machine was only 40,000. That's 10,000 less than the average Singer group size. Average group size for Singer was typically, not always, right around 50,000 machines. The production group size average for the 222K on the left, that belongs to me, was only 5,000. So 1/10 the production group size of the standard Singer production group, and about 1/5 the size of the production group size, a little bit more, for Jean's machine, right around 40,000. And I'm not the greatest mathematician, so if my numbers don't absolutely jive as you're crunching the numbers, don't be surprised. But the numbers I'm quoting are absolutely spot on. So what am I trying to say by all of this? I'm trying to say by all of this, treasure your machine, be proud of your machine, but don't be disproportionately cocky about your machine, because there's always going to be someone that can maybe one-up you. Maybe you'll be strutting around saying, hey, my machine, like Jean's, came from a production group size of only 40,000, and that Scott guy from Wisconsin, who's really smart, said that makes my machine more rare. Is that a truthful statement? Absolutely. Jean can be incredibly proud of her featherweight 221, because it came from a production group size of only 40,000. But if she struts around and bragging about it, someone else might step forward and say, yeah, but I've got a 222K, and mine came from a production group size of only 5,000. See what I'm saying? Be proud of your machine, but don't be cocky about it. Because even if we were to push these two machines off of the workbench, very carefully, of course, we could have an owner of a 301 or a 301A, the big sister to the featherweight, put their machine on this workbench and have just as much reason to be proud. Because I've talked to you about this on this channel before. I've talked about how the big sister to the Featherweight, and this would be the big sister not just to Jean's machine, but to my machine as well, the 222K. Because anyone that has a 301 that was made exclusively in Elizabethport, New Jersey, only in 1952, which was 1 year before they introduced the Featherweight 222K. Again, the 222K was introduced in 1953. 1 year before that, in 1952, Singer introduced the big sister to the Featherweight, the 301. And again, it was made at Elizabethport, New Jersey. How many of those machines did they make in that 1 year in 1952? Does anyone know? If you know, and if you need to cheat and Google it, Google it. Type it in the chat, be the first one to do it, and I'm going to send you something special. Tell me what year they introduced the 301 and how many were made. I already told you how many. I already told you what year it was introduced, right? 1 year before the 222K, right? You already know that. You already got half the answer. Just tell me how many were made in that one production year that Singer offered the big sister to the Featherweight. I should say the original big sister, because later they introduced the 301A. We'll talk about that as well. How many were made? All right, let me pick out some more music while you're doing that. And show me how smart you are. That first one I played is called Airborne, like Army Airborne. And Paula recently shared in a premiere I did that her brother was from the 82nd Airborne Division. Huh? And I also did a little bit of cadence singing during that, and I talked about the 101, 101st Airborne Division. So our first song was Airborne. Our next one is called Creek Whistle. Creek Whistle. All right, you've had enough time. You either know it or you don't know it. You either could Google it successfully or you couldn't Google it successfully. So I'm going to let one of my veterans that are a part of the premiere decide whether or not someone nailed it when I tell you that during that one production year in 1952, they made exactly 185,750 301s. So this is where I say, be proud of your machine, love your machine, cherish your machine, but don't be overly cocky about your machine, because if you're one of those Featherweight peacock strutters, and you know now that there were over about 3 million Featherweights made, you know now, more importantly, there were only 185,750 301s made, so only a fraction compared to the number of Featherweights. That means your 301 owners have even more reason to sit up tall in your chair. Yeah, you do. What about the machine that followed this as another big sister to the Featherweight, the 301A? And the 301A was not made at Elizabethport, New Jersey. It was made at Anderson, South Carolina. How many of those were made? And if you know when that machine was made, you're going to get an A in the class. You're going to be my favorite student for the year. And I'll probably also send you something special. So type that in the chat as well. 301A. When did they make it? How many did they make? You already know it was made at Anderson, South Carolina. Come on, you got this. You got this. You got this. All right, you've had enough time. The 301A started in production a year after the 301 was introduced in 1952. Yep, you got it. 1953, spot on. And they made it until 1957. Again, only at Anderson, South Carolina. They made 514,250 of these machines from 1953 to 1957. So again, I go back to the humility factor. The humility factor of being a VSM owner. Be proud of your machine, cherish your machine, guard your machine with your life, but don't be cocky, because even the folks that own 301As have greater bragging rights than featherweight owners. And I'm talking about featherweight owners like the 221s, the 221-1s, because they only made a little bit over 500,000 of them compared to 3 million featherweights. 1/6 fewer of the 301As were made than the featherweights. Yeah, you see what I'm saying with all this? A lot of numbers I'm throwing out there, but I'm just saying, be proud of your machines, but don't be cocky. Don't be cocky, okay? So what else do we have on the workbench right now? We've got oiling cans. What is that about? We've got a giant, like Samson size oiling can, and we've got a little bitty oiling can. Well, the belief that people have sometimes is the bigger the machine, the more oil it's going to need. There's a little bit of truth to that depending on the moving and the pivoting parts on that machine. In other words, if you grab one of the light industrial machines that Dusty loves. Dusty is my buddy out of Colorado that loves light industrial machines, and he uses them for his leather work. Now, I bet you he oils his machines all the time because he is a die-hard machine owner. I mean, he is serious about it. But I don't think he over-oils either, because too much oil is as bad as too little oil. So the reason I have these two cans out here is to say, if you own a little featherweight like one of these two machines, don't be of the belief that it only needs a little bit of oil because it's a little machine. What if you're using that machine every day? What if you're sewing on that machine 12, 13 hours a day? Then you need to be taking care of that machine with the same level of care that you would one of Dusty's machines that he sews less than that every day. The general rule, write this down. The general rule, whether it's a machine like the one on the left or the one on the right, is for every 8 to 12 hours of sewing. It doesn't have to be continuous sewing. It can be I sat down to it for an hour, then I sat down to it for 3 hours, and eventually it adds up to 8 to 12 hours of sewing. You want to be putting 1 to 2 drops of oil at every oiling point on the machine. Now, a lot of people assume right away, okay, the oiling points are across the top, right? Yeah, they are on the featherweights, but there's also oiling points across the bottom of the machine when you take that oiling plate off the bottom, and also in the face plate as well. Not to mention, on featherweights like these, there's also critical worm gears on the top and on the bottom that need grease, not oil. My point is, take care of your machine. And don't go with the mentality of big machine, big oiling, little machine, little oiling. Go with the simple principle of every 8 to 12 hours of sewing, I'm going to put 1 to 2 drops of oil at every critical oiling point on the machine. Anything that pivots in the faceplate is going to get 1 to 2 drops. Anything that pivots or pitches on the bottom is going to get 1 to 2 drops. Anything that rotates on the top underneath this little plate is going to get 1 to 2 drops. And then the worm gears are also going to get lubed about every 12 hours. And that means putting an appropriate Singer approved grease, or if you have access to my pink grease, you could use my pink grease, which is even, I'm being honest with you, it's even better than the original Singer grease. Then I've got 2 books out here. What are the books about? Well, the book on the left belongs to Jean. It came with her machine, the 221K. Let me untie my tongue. Now, her machine was not made in the United Kingdom. Will this manual work? Yes, absolutely. Is it even better than the tiny little green ones that Singer put out that you almost need a magnifying glass? As a matter of fact, let me emphasize that. The original green ones, the teeny tiny little ones, you need a magnifying glass to read them practically, especially as we get older along in age. You know what I mean? So what I've come out with, and I'm going to do a shameless plug, the one on the right that has the original green cover is a reprint that I did. That's professionally bound, and it's oversized. It's an enlarged version of the original 221-1 manual that will cover you for any of the featherweights that Singer ever made. It really is applicable that way. It's going to show you how to align and set the needle. It's going to show you how to take care of the machine. It's going to show you how to thread the machine. And it's going to be a lot larger print scale than any of the other manuals that I just mentioned. And if you're interested in getting a copy, reach out to me. I'd be happy to sell you one and ship it directly to you. I also offer them on eBay as well, and I've had a number of people pick them up there. So that's why those are sitting out there. Then I've got this big tape measure sitting right above it. What is that about? I've gotten people that have contacted me over the years and said, I've got a 222K and it's bigger than the 221 or 221-1. That's not accurate at all. Unless you're talking about the profile of the 222K. Let me move these oiling cans to the side. If you're talking about the profile height of the machine in relation to the 221 or 221-1, you would technically be correct. Because of the free arm on my 222K, it's got little pedestal feet that raise the machine up a little bit higher than the original featherweight. But as far as the measurements of the machine, if you were of the belief that bigger is better, and my 222K is bigger than the featherweight like Jean's on the right, I got to set you straight, okay? I got to set you straight. Both machines, the overall bed length, and I'm talking about from the tip of the bed over here all the way to the other side of the machine, is going to be right around 15 inches. Right around 15 inches. And that's true of Jean's machine on the right, and that's true of my convertible featherweight on the left. Now if you add the plug-in point, because remember on the featherweights there's a plug-in point on the side which kind of expands the overall width of the machine or the length of the machine as it is, then you're adding another inch to it. So then from the bed over here all the way to the plug-in point on the right side, you're talking 16 inches. And that's true again of the 222K and the 221-1, 221 featherweights. I wish there were an easy way to say that. I feel like I'm going to spit on myself every time I try to go 2. What about the extension beds on these? Because of the slightly higher profile on the 222K, why don't I just say triple deuce K, it makes it look like the tilt bed is a little bit bigger. To me at least, from this vantage point. The reality is the tilt beds on both machines are identical in dimensions. They're going to be right around 5.5 inches long. And they're going to be the same depth as the machine itself, which is right around 6.75 inches. Let's talk about harp space. Is there any difference in the harp space between these two machines? Between the featherweight convertible and the original featherweight that came out in 1933-34? There's no difference at all. If you go from needle to pillar, and again, if you're brand new to VSM and you're brand new to this channel, even my good friend WK that has the sewing museum down in Oklahoma said, Scott, I never knew until I started watching your videos what harp space was. I had no idea. And WK is incredibly smart. He's got a museum, for goodness sakes, for VSM machines. but I was able to teach him something new through our classroom, which is always awesome because I learn stuff all the time too. So the harp space is measured from the needle to the inside of the pillar, and then from the front of the bed to the rear of the bed, and then from the base of the bed to the bottom of the arm. Those are the harp measurements. So what are they? From needle to pillar on both of these featherweights, it's going to be 5.25 inches, 5¼ inches from here to here. If you measure the width, or some people might say the depth of the machine from the front to the rear, it's going to be 6.75 inches on both machines, identical. Finally, the height from the base of the bed to the bottom of the arm, same thing on Jean's machine, no difference. 4.25 inches is the measurement. So any of you that have been out there strutting like a peacock saying, my 222K is bigger than your Featherweight, you're only right in the instance where you say, I'm a little bit higher profile because the free arm has these extra little feet on the bottom and it pushes my machine up a little bit higher. If you were arguing you have bigger harp space than an original Featherweight or anything else along those lines, that's my answer to you. You're absolutely incorrect. Okay? So, reviewing again, and I want to see that you were paying attention in class. Looking at these two featherweights, mine on the left and Jean's on the right, what year bracket did they make the featherweight on the left, the 222K? What years did they make that machine? And what years did they make Jean's machine, the 221? Give me those year brackets, and if you can tell me, I mean, just for a bonus, if you can tell me approximately how many machines they made in that production year bracket, in other words, the totality of production for these two different machines, you're going to get a bonus. You're going to get a gold star, okay? So the first one we listened to a while back was 9 Lives. That was a while ago. Now Stellar Wind. Stellar Wind. I'm only going to give you a second to do this because I mentioned these dates a couple of times already. All right, time's up. And I'll let my veterans decide if anybody nailed it. So they made Jean's type machine, the standard featherweight, from around 1933-34 until 1957. They made, in that total window of time, close to 3 million machines. And some of those were made in the US, some of them were made in England, some were made in Canada. They made them all over the place. They made the machine on the left, which is my 222K, from 1953 to 1961. And they produced, on the low end, 100,000. Some people argue up to 110,000 of the featherweight convertibles. So if you got that right, reach out after this premiere so I can send you something special. I'm going to ask my veterans to kind of flag if somebody nailed it. And that way we can acknowledge you and I can get you mailed something kind of cool. Okay, I think I covered almost everything. The only other thing I was going to mention is my original intent with Jean's machine. I'm going to zoom and 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 zoom. My original intent was to do something that I thought was kind of cool, and that was to use these leather needles that were made in Western Germany. I've had them in my collection of stuff forever, and I've never used them. You can see they're a size 14, which equates to a European size 90. Needles are funny. It's almost like shoes, where you'll get the European size and then you'll get, you know, the US size. And most people that are sensitive about the size of their feet always want to go with the US number because it's going to be quite a bit lower. But the reason I really wanted to use these needles was because they're gold plated. How many times have you ever come across a needle that's gold plated? I mean, seriously. But as I tried them out on one of the sew-offs that I do frequently with elk hide, can you see what I was getting? Starting to get some really good stitching, miss stitch, miss stitch, miss stitch. So I don't know what's up with these machine needles. I got them with a machine a million years ago. And I don't know if they were used by that person and they just stuck them back in there as kind of like a perky thing and say, hey, here, you can have these cool gold-plated needles, and that's why I want you to pay this for this original owner machine, Scott. Yeah, they do. But they just didn't deliver like you would expect anything that comes out of West Germany, like the Pfaff machines. If any of you say Pfaff, then I'm going to call you an Aflac person. You know what I mean? But seriously, they just so underperformed. They were such a disappointment. I just said, no, I'm going to do my off-camera sew-offs using one of my Schmetz needles. And that's what I did in this little stack over here after I had a fail on that elk hide. I redid the sew-off using a Schmetz, same size, 90-14. And off-camera I did elk hide, 6 layers of denim, 6 layers of commercial upholstery material. I did 100% cotton. I did Italian leather, and then I also did 2 layers of vegetable tan leather as well with my Schmetz 90-14 leather needle. And that's what I'm going to be using for this premiere today. I'm not going to use these gold-plated needles. As cool as it would have been, they just didn't deliver. So I'm going to throw those to the side. And if anybody writes me and wants to pay the postage just to say that they've got gold needles from West Germany, if you pay the postage, I'll send you the needles. I really will. All right, let's get going on this premiere. We have a lot of ground to cover, and we don't have a huge amount of time to do it in. So I'm going to expand this shot and give the stage exclusively to Jean's incredible 1949 featherweight and get mine out of the way. So remember the rule again. If you have a big machine or a little machine, don't over oil, don't under oil. About every 8 to 12 hours approximately, 1 to 2 drops at every crucial oiling point on the machine. Now some of the big industrial machines like my friend Dusty likes to use, they'll actually have, kind of like the Husqvarna machines that you see on this channel often, they'll actually have little oiling pads as reservoirs that continue to wick off lubrication to the machine, but that still doesn't provide the complete oiling needs of that machine. So don't even, if you have some of those in your machine, don't become lax and say, oh, that's all I need. You still need to be oiling that machine about every 8 to 12 hours. Forward a little bit more. I'm going to check my plug-in point real quick. We can admire Jean's machine for a little bit as I'm checking my plug point. I saw a little flicker as I was moving it, and I know it's not on the machine because I checked all the electrical on the machine. It's actually my power strip. So I'm going to plug it into a different strip. Yeah. Isn't that funny? This power strip always works, but when it knows it's on camera, it's like, hey, I'm going to give you a hard time, Scott. Yes, I am. All right, let's give that a try. Looks like I'm going to have to replace that power strip. I've had it a long time, so I think it's probably about time. Probably about time. I'm going to throw our off-camera sew-offs over here behind Jean's machine. Let's see. So that was Stella Wind. Stella Wind. Drifting at 432 hertz. Some of these we've heard a couple of times, so I apologize for that, but I'm doing a search right now for duration, and they put these songs up. So turn my volume down. We'll listen to this one. Okay. So the first sew-off I'm going to do is elk hide. I've already done it off camera, 2 rows of that. You already saw that. Now I'm going to do it on camera. And that's the difference, you know, really, between this channel and a lot of other channels out there is a lot of those channels will display still shots of the sew-offs that they're doing, supposedly, with the machine. But you don't actually see them do it. And they might show you the top stitch, but they don't show you the lock stitch. On this channel, I try to do it right. So that's why I go through this lengthy process, and that's why my premieres run so much longer. They really do. I know that. I usually put out a warning. Go to the bathroom. Get something to drink before you start the premiere so that you don't get into a crisis mode or something. Okay, I think I've got that set up properly. So if you're setting this machine up to sew, since we are looking at the needle right now, and I will show you in Jean's book. Books are a great resource. Turn my screen around so I can see. So on page 12 in Jean's book, it tells you how to set that needle. And the fact that when you set the needle, the flat side of the needle is going to go to the left. I'm kind of tight in, so you can't see everything. But my point is, make sure you set it with the flat side of the needle to the left. And when you thread it, does anyone know how you're going to thread it? Type in the chat if you do, if you have a featherweight. How do you thread that needle after you've threaded the balance of the machine? Is it left to right or right to left? Flat side goes to the left, we know that. And that can throw some people off because a lot of the singers, the flat side is going to go to the right, towards the pillar. Featherweight is different. It wants to be different. So the flat side goes to the left. If you said you're going to thread it from right to left, give yourself a pat on the back, because that is absolutely correct. If you decide to thread it the other way, as I've had some people do, or if you decide to rotate the flat side towards the pillar instead of to the left, like it should be, you're going to experience sewing problems. You really will. I promise you will. All right. So we're going to start with what I think is a fairly easy task for this featherweight. Again, if you don't know it, the featherweight, both true of the 222K that was on the workbench a little bit ago, and Jean's featherweight as well, they come with a 0.4 amp motor. That's pretty teeny tiny when you compare it to other Singer machines. But when that machine motor has been optimized in this workshop, I would put a featherweight motor up against much bigger motors on other Singer machines any day of the week. And you've seen me on this channel where I've sewed 2 or even 3 layers of leather using a featherweight. And it's not a one-off. You could do it all day long, because even though it's an aluminum machine, all of the gears and engineering are steel forged. It's built very, very well. So our task, the first one, to some people, if they have a featherweight that does not have an optimized motor, their featherweight won't be able to do this. And as we continue to escalate the difficulty of these sew-offs during our sewing Olympics, their tongue is going to be hanging out. Like, how the heck did you do that with a featherweight? How did you do that with a featherweight? It's workshop magic. All right. So let's do this. Let's stop blah, blah, blah and just do it. Single layer of alkyd with Jean's 1949 featherweight. Here we go. If I get my foot all the way on the foot controller here. All right, I think I almost got it. I didn't give it much gas. I just didn't. I might give it more gas on other sew-offs. I might do that. And when you're pulling the thread on featherweights, because you do thread them from left to right, a lot of us are accustomed when we're pulling it to pull it straight forward or to pull it right. Make sure you're pulling it just slightly to the left so that you're not putting unnecessary stress on that needle. Again, if you're threading it from left to right, you'll pull it a little bit to the left. If you're threading another type of machine from the left to the right, then you would pull it a little bit to the right. Just makes sense, right? All right, so let's take a look at this first stitch off that we did on Jean's 1949 featherweight. And again, this is a single layer of genuine alkyd. If you're brand new to this channel, look at that from the side, just so you don't have any misgivings about it being an easy sew-off. That's about 3 to 5 ounces of chemically processed leather. Alkyd is chemically processed like a lot of hides are. Kind of like protected full-grain leather, where they chemically process it to make it more resistant to staining. It raises the piercing threshold. It makes it more difficult to sew through it. And that's why I love to use this stuff, to show what machines that have come through the workshop are capable of doing compared to other featherweights out there. One of those other 3 million featherweights that were made during the production window of, what was it again? Do you remember? Type in the chat if you remember when featherweights were made. Go ahead, type fast, type fast. All right, if you said from around 1933-34 until 1957, you get an A in the class because you're spot on. So one of those other 3 million featherweights that were made from around 1933-34 until 1957 would struggle with doing what we just did with absolute ease. And I wasn't even pedal to the metal. But more importantly than the fact that we did it easy on Jean's machine, look at the stitches now. Also notice with our Schmetz leather needle, size 90-14, unlike those fancy gold-plated needles that I'm willing to send to somebody if they pay the postage, no skip stitches. Totality of the stitching, absolutely page 34. Absolutely page 34. And you know what? That's why people love featherweights, is because they do have a tendency to lay down some absolutely drop-dead gorgeous stitches when they're sewing at the top of their game. Now, if a featherweight is not sewing at the top of its game, kind of like Jean's when it arrived at the workshop, you're going to see something different. And because of this nappy backside of this leather, we're going to see little glimpses and peaks of the stitch. But I can tell you, being up close and personal, the lock stitch is absolutely page 34. Totality of the nap, because we can't see most of the stitching because of the nap, is absolutely spot on. I'm going to throw this to the back as our first on-camera sew-off as an absolute pass on Jean's featherweight. Kind of deciding what I want to sew next, quite honestly. I think I know what I'll sew next. I got some really cool leather from my friend Maddie down in Florida. She was out and about shopping, and happened to see a leather goods store in the area of Florida that she was traveling, and went in on my behalf. I didn't even ask her to do it. She just did it because she's kind, and said to them, hey, I've got a friend up in Wisconsin that does a lot of sew-offs and loves leather. Do you have any scraps? And they sold her a whole bag of scraps of leather, just like the leather you're seeing on screen right now. This is really cool leather because it's saddle grade leather. It's a type of leather, and again, depending on where you are on the height of the animal, it's thicker in some places, it's thinner in other places. But this saddle grade leather is the kind of stuff that they make saddles out of. That's why it's called saddle grade leather. They also make gun holsters out of it, and it is tough, tough stuff to get through. That's why, to not insult Jean's Featherweight after it's been optimized, I'm going to go with 2 layers of this stuff instead of 1. On a featherweight, 2 layers of saddle grade leather on a featherweight. I'm going to get a drink of water, and then we're going to get this done. There's other people that after they see this, they're going to be writing me notes. And the notes are going to read something like, how the HE double toothpick did you do that? I could not even sew garment leather on my featherweight. And my answer is always the same. That's because your featherweight has not gone through the surgical process at the workshop. So there's the thickness that we're going to attempt to sew with Jean's machine, okay? It's probably about 5 or 6 ounces of leather. I actually thought about doing 3 layers of this, but I don't know if I want to push things quite that far. All right, so 2 layers of saddle grade leather with a featherweight. Again, 0.4 amp motor. All right, here we go. Kind of wanted to accelerate just a little bit at the end. Just kind of step it up a little bit, you know what I mean? Just for fun. So again, 2 layers of saddle grade leather. Let's see how we did. I already know the answer. I already know the answer. And thank you again to Maddie for your thoughtfulness in sending this to me. I've got all kinds of leathers in the workshop, but I did not have any saddle grade leather. So it's really neat to be able to sew this off. Not to mention, I just have an addiction to the smell of leather. If you love the smell of leather, I mean, if you can walk into a shop that sells jackets or purses or whatever, and they've got a ton of leather in there, and you just feel like you're almost on drugs. I mean, honestly, you almost feel like it's a drug breathing that in. That's the way I am in a leather shop. I mean, you know what I'm saying, right? Yeah, you do. So 2 layers of saddle grade leather. You can look at the 2 thicknesses right there. I'm going to say it right now. Page 34. Matter of fact, page 34 plus. Wow. Wow! And Jean's machine could not have done this when it arrived at the workshop. There's no way. It had damage to the motor, and you'll see in the Facebook shots where I'm actually welding and repairing the stack lamentations on her motors so that it would be able to perform like you're going to see it in this premiere today. Folks, that is so obviously page 34 plus. I mean, it's just like a duh. It's so easily identified. Let's spin it around and look at that lock stitch. See what we think of that. Well, the thing I love about this nap on this saddle grade leather, and it's true of vegetable tan leather as well, is it has such a flat nap. We can actually see the totality of stitching. I'm just going to pitch it a little bit more. We can actually see the totality of the stitching on it easily. It's not like that elk hide. we zoom in, we'll be able to see it even more clearly. Pause right there. Pause right there. Folks, that's also, I'm not going to belabor the point, that's obviously also a page 34 lock stitch through 2 layers of saddle grade leather. There are folks that never, ever, ever would try this on a featherweight. And if they did, they'd be disappointed because their featherweight wouldn't do it. And Jean's just did it with no problem at all. Again, I wasn't even close to being pedal to the metal. So I'm going to throw that to the back with the elk hide as a definite pass. And we're going to keep marching forward. But we're not going to be marching at the machine right now. We're going to be marching over on Facebook. I want to be able to share some of these progress shots with you. You can see the results of my work during the premiere by how the machine performs. But how did it get to that point? How did it get to that level of sewing? That's what the progress shots are all about. That's why we do the progress shots. I always say we, it's only me. It's only me, folks. So, cleanliness of the machine is so essential. I talk about it all the time. Dirt is not the friend of our vintage sewing machines. But it's more than just, it's all yucky. It holds that machine back. It smothers that machine. It chokes that machine so that it can't get its breath to be able to do sew-offs like you just saw Jean's do with that 2 layers of saddle grade leather or the single layer of elk hide. So you got to get rid of all that junk deep hidden inside of the machine, just like a cancer. So this is our starting point. I'm just opening the machine up and starting to check things out. And I know that I shouldn't say I know. I'm pretty sure that Jean bought this machine. It wasn't eBay, it was through some other sales venue. And I won't tell you what she paid for it, I know, because with the other materials in the case was the actual invoice for the machine. But she paid a fair price for this featherweight. And I'm sure that the pictures of it were real pretty, because it is a pretty machine. Even before I went and cleaned up the paint more, it was a pretty machine. It was a looker. But I've said it before, do not judge a machine by its exterior as far as what the inside of that machine is like, how it's been maintained, how it's been taken care of. Because I can tell you one thing, those pretty pictures that Jean probably looked at to pick this machine, along with all these neat accessories, extra bobbins and all that, those are all pluses. But the machine had not been maintained well at all. And we'll see that as we get deeper into these progress shots. Just kind of showing you the machine in the case there. And these featherweight cases are great. And they're going to be pretty much the same between the 221s and the case that I have for my 222K. But the only problem is the clearance tolerance as you're bringing these machines in and out inevitably results in chipping the edges of the machine in one way or another. And that's the only thing I would say is they could have designed some sort of padding for these cases. I think that would have been really a good idea. Overall, the case for Jean's machine that she got is in good shape. The material on the inside of the case, we're kind of looking down into the case, is beginning to pucker up and separate a little bit. And I didn't go after that. I had so many other things going on and so many additional maintenance things for her machine that I thought, you know what, I'm just going to leave that. But the easiest fix for that is to get a syringe, kind of like you see me use on the motors in that with my pink grease. Get a syringe and put some sort of a fabric-friendly adhesive and discreetly put a little hole underneath that pucker area and then just work it smooth with that adhesive underneath that surface. And if you want to apply a little bit of heat to it, maybe with a hair dryer, and then just smooth it down. And obviously you'll be smoothing it from right to left, smoothing it towards the edge, because that's the way it's separated in the first place. Does that make sense? See what I'm saying? This is before I did any real cleaning on the machine. And I'm sure this is what caught Jean's eye. It's a good looking featherweight, isn't it? It really is. Get close to it, you can see more stuff, but all in all, it's a very good looking featherweight. That's kind of what I'm talking about. It's not going to be museum quality. When you get down to the bare bones of the machine, it's going to have scratches, it's going to have other imperfections. But from a distance, even from relatively close up, it's a gorgeous machine. And of course, I replaced the bulb on Jean's machine with an LED. I think I actually show that. See, this is what I'm talking about. When you get a little bit closer to the machine and you scrutinize it a little bit, you'll be able to see the contrast between the way the machine is now and the way it arrived. Just all the gook and everything on the machine. Even the paint surface. The conditioning of the paint that I did for Jean has gotten rid of a lot of that scratching and a lot of that kind of the milkiness. It's kind of a cloudiness on the finish. There again, you get to see some of the paint imperfections, some of the varnishing and the crud. They were kind of looking into the machine a little bit more at the main shaft, which also includes a worm gear cluster top and bottom that has to be serviced as well. Look at how dry those gears are. Can you see that in the shot? The only grease anywhere near those gears is what you can see right there. And it's basically like glass. It's totally dried out. It's not providing any cushion at all to those worm gears. So you have metal slapping into metal, which is never a good thing. I've said it before, you can't just put grease on a dirty surface. You've got to clean that surface first. So that's what I'm starting with, using a dental tool. And again, it's not just a matter of, ooh, it's yucky. It's holding this machine back at this point. It's not able to perform. Starting to get all that stuff out of there. And you see, even when you go over the surface that looked like it was fairly clean, you all of a sudden discover that there's a cruddiness on that as well. And again, the crud doesn't stay here. It migrates around the machine. So you've got to try to get rid of it and get that surface nice and clean so we can put fresh grease on those worm gears so they're no longer pounding into each other. That's just nasty. I mean, that almost looks septic right there. Plus, there's part of a metal needle that worked its way in there as well. That's what you can kind of see hanging down and pointing towards the worm gear. It's a piece of metal. And there you can see it on my magnet right there. If you went to a service center or a repair center, guess what? Your machine comes in with all of this stuff. It's going to be going out with all of this stuff as well. So you'll leave there feeling better. You paid 120, 150 bucks to get the machine completely serviced, as they love to say. Complete service means you deal with this stuff. But service centers would go out of business if they tried to spend 12 to 14 hours on a machine like I do, instead of the 30 to 45 minutes that they typically do. All of that was inside of Jean's beautiful featherweight. All of that crud. There's a special solution that I use to break it down even further. A lot of it I can get out with a dental tool. Some of it is so sticky and so crystal and caramelized, I've got to soften it up a little bit to get it out of there. How's that starting to look? Does that look different? Does that look different than it did before? Yeah, I think so. I also love my little typewriter brush. Maybe that's why I have such a fondness for Tom Hanks, because of his typewriter stuff. Because I use this little typewriter brush for all kinds of things when I'm working on the machines. It really is phenomenal. We finally have a surface we can work with. So all of those gears in each of those little slots, deep into those little slots, I'm using a syringe with a needle to get that pink grease into all those little spaces where otherwise that metal was slamming into metal with the other worm gear. See that? Now I'm actually working it into the grooves even more with my finger. I think that's beginning, isn't it? Yeah. We went full circle already. Yay. So I'm going to close that set. And our next set will be kind of a continuance of that. We'll be focusing on that. Oops, that's the wrong one. Where is it? URL melt. That sounds like fun, doesn't it? Sounds like we have to call a technical person real quick. Let's go back over to Jean's machine. You just look at the machine and see it again. Original paint, original decals, but just the overall appearance of the machine compared to the shots that we just saw on Facebook, you can see pretty straight away. You know, again, I not only deal with the mechanics, the electrics, but I also like to improve the look of the machine as well before it leaves the workshop. All right, let me lock this in place. And let's go to our next sew-off. So any of you in attendance at this live premiere, type in the chat if you have a featherweight and what year is it? What model is it? Is it a 221, 221-1? Is it a 222K? I'd just be curious in those that are in this live premiere if you have a featherweight or if this is going to be your inspiration, seeing what Jean's machine can do in getting a machine like she has. That's oftentimes the way it goes. People will watch my videos on my channel, sometimes from 7 to 10 years ago. And after they see one of my optimized machines and what it can do, they get really excited about that machine. And then they reach out to see if I've got one. Because the people that get it, the people that are really smart consumers and students, they realize that they can't watch a video on one of my optimized, fully restored machines and expect one on eBay or Facebook Marketplace or Etsy or any of the other places to perform like that machine. It's only people that are a little bit foolish that believe that they're all going to do the same thing. You know what I mean? What can we sew next? What can we sew next? Yeah, I could do that. Why don't we do some vegetable tan leather? Let's do some vegetable tan leather. I don't know if this is going to be too much or not. This may be a little bit over the top. This may be a little bit over the top, but I like pushing the machines. You know that. Let's see here. I'm going to line these up and just see what kind of thickness we're looking at. Also going to brush them off so they don't molt all over Jean's machine. Okay, so we're talking probably about between 10 to 12 ounces. Can you see that in the shot? 10 to 12 ounces of vegetable tan leather. I don't know, this might be going a little bit too far. I'll give it a try. If the machine has difficulty delivering on it, then I will go to 2 layers, because even 2 layers is going to be beyond crazy. See, that's what 2 layers will look like right there. Let's give 3 a try. Let's give 3 a try. And I am dealing with embroidery thread, so that would be another concern. Embroidery thread, you're generally not going to be sewing 10 to 12 ounces of leather. You're just not. So we'll see how Jean's machine does with this. Again, I'll drop it to 2 if I have to. I hope I don't. But we'll see. I did not test this off camera. I did not test this off camera. So I'm a little nervous. I'm just being honest with you. A little bit nervous. If I had a size 110 needle in here, a Schmetz leather needle, okay. We're dealing with a 90. I've broken 90s before, especially on that awful compressed felt stuff. All right. I won't be a drama queen. I'm just going to give it a go. We'll see how the machine does. Again, it only has a 0.4 amp motor. Even though I've gone through that motor with a fine tooth comb, it's only 0.4 amps, folks. You think we can do this? Type in the chat if you think we can do this. Go ahead, type it in right now. And I'm going to go on faith that you typed. Go for it. Go for it. All right, let's give it a try. Ooh, I'm a little nervous. Yes, I am. Here we go. Did I break a thread? I think I did. Yeah. That's a little too much. We tried. I can't do it with this thread, and I can't do it with a size 90 needle. I'd have to have a heavier thread, and I'd have to have a larger needle to do this. Yeah, it's not going to do it. It's too much. All right, that's okay. That's okay. I'm going to pull it apart. We'll go with 2 layers. At least we know. At least we tried. At least we tried. And I doubt very much that Jean is going to be sewing at this level anyway with leather. It's not likely. All right, let's give 2 layers a try. Again, nothing to hiccup at. That's about six, almost 8 ounces of leather. A solid 6 ounces. And it's probably, without grabbing my caliper, it's going to be about 3 or 4 millimeters thick. Let's give this a go. All right, here we go. 2 layers of vegetable tanned leather. Here we go. Oh, Jiminy Crickets. I'm laughing just because there are other people all over the internet on sewing platforms, whether it's on Facebook or elsewhere, that would even, at the idea of doing 2 layers of vegetable tan leather on a featherweight, it just blows their mind. And if I were to put a different needle in here with a different type of thread, I could bump this up to 3 layers of vegetable tan leather. Unbelievable. I love my process, and it just keeps getting better. It just keeps getting better all the time because of the Kanai factor. If you're new to this channel, let me have one of my veterans type in the chat what Kanai stands for. C-A-N-I. What does that stand for? It relates to how my process is world famous, but it just keeps getting better. It just keeps getting better. Okay, let's look at these stitches now. Holy mackerel, we're already looking at them. I didn't realize we were lined up like that. So 3 layers of vegetable tan leather with our current setup. With a size 90-14 leather needle and embroidery thread, we couldn't quite pull it off. That's okay. So we bumped it down by 1 layer to 2 layers of vegetable tan leather. Let's see how we are as far as page 34. Pause. 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 Folks, that is so SEWSO. That is so clearly page 34. I would even say page 34 plus. Jean's Featherweight with a 0.4 amp motor. A teeny tiny little motor. Just went through 2 layers of vegetable tan leather, the equivalent of about 6 to 8 ounces of leather. And it did it without even blinking. Without even blinking. It got the job done. Absolutely page 34 top stitch. Let's see what that lock stitch looks like. Yeah, I might have to use my clips to hold it up. Yes, I will. It's kind of tippy-toppy. This is our lock stitch now. I love this leather because the nap is a lot less pronounced and you can see the stitching much more readily on this type of leather. So again, our lock stitch, you can look at that top edge of 2 layers of vegetable tan leather. Pause. Oops. I was trying to show that edge a little bit more and I went a little bit too far. Absolutely wow. No doubt about it, that is page 34 on the lock stitch. Might even say page 34 plus. Look at that right there. Look at that top edge. And look at that stitching. The lock stitch is always going to be more difficult to execute. It's always going to be more difficult because of that friction and gravity factor of that thread having to be pulled back up through this. Those 2 layers of vegetable tan leather. And yet this featherweight that belongs to Jean, it got the job done so easily. Even when we tried 3 layers, her machine went through it. But we couldn't deliver as far as a page 34 stitch because we got to sew 3 layers of vegetable tan leather. Are you serious? 8 to 10 ounces of leather. We couldn't do it with a needle this small. We couldn't do it with embroidery thread. But again, if someone wanted to challenge me to change the setup, not during this premiere, but in the future on another featherweight, and say, Scott, set it up to do 3 layers of vegetable tan leather, I'll take that challenge. You remind me when we announce a featherweight, and I'll do that. Because I'm going to go with a 110 size, which equates to a size 18 leather needle by Schmetz, and I'm going to change out this thread from embroidery to a heavier gauge thread, probably a size 89 thread, similar to upholstery thread. I'll totally do it. I'm all over it. But this alone, 2 layers of vegetable tan leather, is off the charts, especially when you take into account what most people associate featherweights with being able to do. So I'm going to set this to the side with our saddle grade leather, our elk hide, as a definite pass. A definite pass and a page 34 pass, without a doubt. All right, let me lock that in place. I might do one more sew off and then we'll jump back over to Facebook. Although I've got 5 more sets of progress photos that I really want you to see, especially my folks that don't do Facebook and they only YouTube it. I really, 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 really want you to see this. I don't want you just to look at the machine performing and go, wow. I want you to understand how it got to the wow. Yeah. So let me do this. Let me pick my next victim. Let me pick my next victim, and then we will move over to Facebook. So I think what I'm going to do is my 2 layers of, we're going to go to the light side now. My 2 layers of 100% cotton. And I cut this off of a fat quarter. Paula Noel had inspired me to do more of this for our quilters, and I'm happy to do that. So when we get back to Jean's machine, we're going to be going through these 2 layers of 100% cotton for our quilting friends. Okay, so let me pick out a little bit more music, and then I will move us back over to Facebook. So that was URL Melt. Now we're going to do 6 seasons. 6 seasons. 6 seasons. So there you're seeing some of my tools that I employ for this stage of getting Jean's machine back to, glasses are filthy, getting Jean's machine back to a point where we're stepping in the direction of that premiere. All of this has to happen before we're ready to premiere the machine, because the premieres again are like a sewing Olympics. And like an Olympic trainer, you got to train for years and years and years. I got to prep and prep and prep for around 12 to 14 hours with a featherweight before it's ready to hit the Olympics. So I've got my magnet out, I've got my syringe, I've got my Q-tips, I've got my typewriter brush, I've got my special solvent to break stuff down. Oh, and I've got my dental tool. I didn't see it right away. So all of those are the tools of the trade. And we're getting rid of the filth that's holding back Jean's machine right now. But we also have to be concerned about safety, right? I'm going to clean these glasses real quick. We have to be concerned about safety. And we have to be concerned about how is the electrics on the machine. So I'm also going through a detailed process of inspecting that as well. And also, I don't think I show it, but I also insulate wires as well, as you've seen me do in other still shots. Because electricity is like water, and otherwise it'll leak out. And if you're leaking electricity, you're leaking the opportunity to reach optimization. It's like the machine is bleeding out. Maybe I've been watching too many CSI programs, huh? Don't let the machine bleed out! Insulate, insulate! Oh, I love being in the playroom, don't you? The playroom classroom. All right, let's continue. Oh, okay. Looking at that closely, oh, that's part of the stitch length controller. I was having trouble seeing what that was. There it is. Yep, doing some servicing and also verifying and making adjustments on there as well. There's a number of adjustments that have to be made to make that properly responsive. Can you see that filth in the shot? All the stuff that's in there right now holding back Jean's machine. And also preventing that stitch length adjuster from moving freely. So a combination of cleaning, lubricant, and also dental tools to scrape away the old stuff. Focusing back on the motor now. This is the motor area, the pillar. Look at all that filth around here. And again, the motor acts like what? Type it in the chat. What does a motor act like when it comes to pulling stuff in? And that's my magnet holding the bolt that holds the motor on. That's supposed to be a bobbin, but right now it's a blah. There's the inside of the balance wheel. How does that look? Does that look like it's optimized? But again, if you go to a local sewing center, you take your featherweight in there, your featherweight is going to leave with all of that on the inside of it. What's the significance of that? What's the big deal? Out of sight, out of mind, right? It's going to migrate around your machine. It's going to cause your belts to slip. It's going to cause your tension to go off. It might even throw the timing of your machine off if it becomes extreme enough. And it's going to get sucked into your motor, because your motor is like if you typed it into the chat, vacuum, you're spot on. Here on the inside of the main shaft, there are threads, and there's all kinds of junk on the inside of there, and I'm softening it up using my torch. Again, a torch has to be used very cautiously because it hits temperatures up to 1200 degrees. And if you hit the wrong part of your machine with a 1200 degree flame, you're going to do major damage. So be very, very careful. And there I'm making an adjustment on the pitch that comes off of the pitman arm that comes out the side of the pillar after I've done quite a bit of cleaning there. And we're also cleaning that up as well, because you don't want to leave any dirt behind. There we're starting to elevate it a little bit so I can get a different vantage point on the machine. It's starting to really come together, isn't it? Remember how filthy that was? And as you're adjusting your stitch length, whether or not you realize it, the little bolt that I just showed, that little bolt there that had all the varnishing and buildup and crud, basically was a crusted on there, crestation, blah, blah, blah. That moves when you're adjusting your stitch length, or it's supposed to move. If it's all critted up, it's not going to move as freely as it should. Now it's starting to come together. It's a little access panel so you can see the wiring. Also another point of the machine here that's all filthy right now. It's all filthy. Looking inside here, right where we plug our electrical contacts, all kinds of junk and crud inside of there. Verifying wiring, checking wiring. Make sure that it's safe. Make sure that the contacts that are holding it together are tight. A number of times I've gone into featherweights and I found things that are loose that should not be loose. And there I've taken off the wiring junction point that mounts to the side of the machine, and I've actually taken the wires off to make sure that the connectors on the end are tight and that none of them are frayed. Everything is verified. I'm confident that the machine is safe to operate and that the wiring is sufficient. More cleaning. Now here's some of the damage I talked about that results from bringing the machine in and out of the case. Machines that are aluminum are cast aluminum. And when you receive a damage point on a cast aluminum machine, that's what it looks like. And it becomes very rough and very uneven. So between using a dental tool and using about 1500 grit sandpaper, I'm trying to clean that area up so that I can touch up that paint for Jean, because I know when she goes to that quilting retreat, she doesn't want the machine to look like that. As the machine is sitting on a surface where she would be using it in a setting like that, you're going to be able to see this on the side of the machine. And I do not want my customer going to a quilting retreat with an eyesore like that on the machine. So I'm going to do my best to try to take care of it for her. It's probably going to take about an hour, a little bit less than an hour, probably about 50 minutes. But it's worth it. It's worth it. I've gotten the surface now so that it's smooth, it's more even. And now we're going to try to touch that up and do my best to blend it in. It's not going to be perfect, but it's unless you get there with a magnifying glass, you're not going to be able to see it compared to the way it was. And that's still wet right now, so it will lighten up a little bit, but it looks a lot better than it did with that raw aluminum sticking out. More cleaning. Getting that area by the electrical plug-in point cleaned up as well. Doesn't that look better? It looks a lot different, doesn't it? Before. After. And the reason that I really do dedicate time to this as well is because this is your portal for the electricity into the machine. Anything that holds it back, whether it's oxidation and crud built up on these contacts or just crud in general, it's going to hold that machine back. Starting to go into the motor now, and I believe I'm measuring caliper measurements on the brushes now. I have gotten featherweights in that have mismatched brushes in them. Again, a lot of people believe as long as it slides into the well, even if it has movement in the well, that it's okay. But a motor brush should fit in that copper well like a glove. Not too tight, not too loose. There's our place right there where the motor would set, and look at all the stuff there that motor has drawn into it, and eventually all this stuff here that you're seeing would get sucked into that motor and would stick and be fused to all of those electrical field areas and all of those copper areas. So we've got to get rid of it. We got to get rid of it, and that's what I'm beginning to do right there. Again, using a very safe solvent for paint surfaces, and of course my typewriter brush. So the last song we just heard is called Six Seasons. And now we're going to hear Digital Ghosts. We've heard that before. So we're going after the dirt. We're going to get rid of the dirt. Starting to clean that area up more and more and more. Now it's starting to come together. See how that looks now? And that's the type of surface that we want to remount that motor to, so it's not going to be sucking all that junk in that we saw before. There we go. There we go. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Let's go after the motor. We've already taken the motor apart, and we have stack lamentations. We've got this, the commutator, and we got some of the wraps out. The stators are still in the other part over here. But we're going to be servicing the entire motor and also doing a repair on it as well. But we're not going to be doing the repair until we get into the next set of photos, because we've already seen these. So let's close this set. And we come back, you're going to be seeing me do a very delicate repair on a fairly large section of the stack lamentations that were damaged, and I'm using a soldering welding approach with my torch, which it ain't easy, folks. It ain't easy. Yeah. Okay, let's go back to the machine. Oh, there's all the little people in the village, my friends. She's one of our new gals, too. You haven't seen her much, but she needs a name, too. All right, let's sew 100% cotton. 2 layers of it. We sew heavy. We also need to be able to sew light. And this is where our embroidery thread will complement. Although most people don't sew 100% cotton using a leather needle, which is what we're doing, but hey, it's fun, right? Okay, 2 layers of 100% cotton. I'm going to take it kind of slow so I can hopefully go reasonably straight. Here we go. Ha ha! That's about as straight as I ever get. Cool. So if anyone ever tells you you can't sew or you can't quilt using a leather needle, you technically can. Yes, you can. All right, I'm going to hope that that stays there because it's kind of leaning a little bit. Maybe I should use my sew-off holder. Yeah, we'll try it. We'll try it like this first. Okay, let's give this a go. Let me zoom in on these. So again, 2 layers of 100% cotton from a fat quarter. Let's see how this machine did with a super light sew-off. Pause right there. Pause right there. Pause right there. Well, I'm going to call it page 34. Beautiful stitching. Totality of the stitching. We turn it around, we'll look at that lock stitch. Ah, stop falling, stop falling. We want to see your lock stitch. I'll get the clips out. Don't make me get the clips out. Wait till your father gets home. All right, I'm using the clips. Jiminy crickets. Come on, you silly thing. All right, I'm stopping there. Oh, I see why. I've got my fan blowing too. That doesn't help. Sometimes the opposite. Okay, this is our lock stitch. 100% cotton. 2 layers. I don't have the right angle. There we go. That's a little bit better. So we just sewed 2 layers of 100% cotton using a size 14 leather needle with embroidery thread. Pause right there. Pause right there. Folks, I'm going to declare it a page 34 without a doubt. And I'm going to throw that to the rear with our heavy sew-offs that we did. And we're going to keep on marching forward. We're going to keep on marching forward. That was an interesting song, wasn't it? Almost had kind of a theater, suspenseful sound to it. Yeah. Digital Ghosts. What an interesting title, huh? Next one is called Wolf Moon. Wolf Moon. We played this recently with another premiere, I believe. Pretty sure we did. Yeah. What should our next sew-off be? Do another sew-off and then we'll do some more Facebook shots right after that. Could do light again. Got it like an extra piece. I've got an extra piece of saddle grade leather and an extra piece of genuine elk hide. We usually match them, you know, if we're doing saddle grade leather, we'll do, say, 2 pieces of saddle grade leather. We normally don't mix and match. I wonder if we should. Should we try that? We'll do a layer of saddle grade leather and then do elk hide on top of it. That would be different, wouldn't it? Yeah. Maybe again I'm biting off more than I should chew, like 3 layers of vegetable tan leather. I'm willing to try it. So a layer of elk hide and a layer of saddle grade leather, right around 8 ounces, I would say. Let's give it a go. If it's too much, at least we tried. All right, here we go. Drop down. You see that? Kind of went off the ledge and we kind of dropped down. Well, let's see how we did. I don't think I've ever done that before. It's kind of fun, kind of mix matching leathers. Yeah. All right, that's the first. We did a layer of saddle grade leather and a layer of genuine elk hide. Cool. And we did it on a featherweight, by the way, in case you missed that. In case you were out of class and you missed that one. Oh, I'm going to get all kinds of notes about this. How the heck? How the heck did you, what? What? Oh, now I gotta make it stand up. That's the bigger challenge. Sewing through it, no problem. Getting it to stand up, there, okay, all right, that's enough. Let's just do it this way. I'll do it right over here. There we go. I got to kind of sneak it underneath the edge of the bed because I have the featherweight too close to the edge. All right, let's move the camera. Where are we? There we are. So a layer of elk hide, if you can imagine, 4 or 5 ounces of leather, and then we added a layer of saddle grade leather to it. See what we think. You gotta be kidding. On a featherweight. Pause right there. Pause right there. Well, I gotta pause right there because there's... Oh, there's more left. Okay. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Isn't it fun to try new things? A definite pass. Page 30. I'm going to give it a page 34 plus because we've never done this before. Matched elk hide with another leather, especially saddle grade leather, and get page 34 plus stitches on it. That's what? So many crickets. Galloping gourmet. Let's turn around and look at the lock stitch. The only problem is I should have put the elk hide on the bottom. You know what I mean? I should have flipped the saddle grade with the non-nappies. Yeah. Well, it's the first time I tried it. Dag nabbit. It was almost perfect. It is. Look at that. Page 34 lock stitch. We can at least see one of them. Oh, don't you love and hate the nap of leather? Oh, there's another one. Hey, all right. Well, I can tell you from what I'm seeing, I can't see much, but I'm going to give it a page 34 anyway. Next time we do this, next time we sew elk hide with saddle grade leather, we'll put the smooth side out. We'll put this side out on the back side. Yeah, we will. So I'm going to throw it to the back with our other sew-offs as a definite pass. It's a definite pass. Pass. Let's take a look at Jean's machine. And then we're going to be doing some Facebook pictures. Got to wipe it off again. I feel like Mr. Incredible. I just cleaned up all the crime, and why doesn't it stay clean? All right, let's pop over to Facebook and check out some more progress shots. And these are some really cool ones. I mean, they're all cool to me because I love seeing the impact that I can bring to the machines and then being able to demonstrate the impact at the premieres. But when you've got a motor that's damaged like this with the stacked lamentations, you can kind of see it. See where I've done the repair already up there? 1, 2, 3, 4 sections where there were literally like holes in the stacked lamentations. I think I show it on some of the other pictures. I'm pretty sure that I do. But that is a critical, I mean, that is like the motor was not safe to be operating like that condition. And yet I wanted to do a repair that would cost a little bit to the customer, but not nearly as much as a brand new featherweight motor. You buy a brand new featherweight motor, you're going to be spending probably $100 to $125 easy. So I try to save the customer money when I can. And they're out of order. I mean, this is when I'm actually taking the motor apart, I think. And yes, the bolts on the motor itself, let me go back to that again. The bolts that hold the two casings of the motor together, they have to be torque tightened In other words, they shouldn't be ratcheted with a screwdriver super tight, or it's going to cause binding and drag on the motor. So you got to torque them, and depending on your drill, it's going to be a torque setting of between 2 to 3. Pretty low, pretty low. So here we pulled part of the motor component out. We've got here we've got the stack lamentations, we got some wrap, we got the commutator, and I think here I've decided I've got to, yeah, if I zoom in real close, you can see the damaged areas, I think, before I fixed them. Or is that after? I think that may have been after, and before I polished it. Yeah, I think so. You take like 200 plus photos, it's hard to remember all of them exactly. Here you can see some of that damage. Can you see that in the shot? Where those lamentations are actually, they actually have separations on them. I think I even have some better shots of that. I think I might. Maybe I don't. More detail cleaning on here. And that's after the commutator and that has been cleaned up. Now we're focused on the stators and the wiring on the other part of the motor. Also verifying wires as well. And some of the stator wraps actually were degrading, so you'll probably see me doing some repairs on those also. You can see some of that wrap is actually separating. And I've decided here that I have to do a repair. So I've got some of this oil resistant epoxy material, and I'm beginning to apply it to the stator wraps. Can you see that? Why do you do that? Well, because the stators have a large charge of electricity flowing through them in order to supply the rest of the motor, and those wraps fortify that and insulate that, and you can't have areas that are compromised. And that was the previous photo. You saw me using the torch to quick dry it. More cleaning. That's the well for one of the motor brushes. The motor brushes themselves, which all in all are not bad. A serviceable motor brush is going to be about 5 to 7 millimeters in length. You don't want to go below 5 millimeters. And these measured right around 12, but there's still a lot of cleaning and servicing that has to be done to them with these copper springs and also the stack of the carbon itself. Accessing the other side. Deep cleaning around the wells. And the wells on a motor on a Featherweight 221 are going to be a little bit different than a 222K in how you have to service them. Wolf Moon. Looks like we have Vital Whales next. Vital Whales. More cleaning. And what I'm doing now is I'm injecting the lubrication ports on the motor with my special grease. And I'm trying to use the appropriate size needle so I can get as deep into that well as possible to force out the old junk that's trapped down in the bottom of the well. You can see in this shot the stuff that came out as a result of using this process. I think you can see that. It almost looks like a clot, doesn't it? Almost like a clot. And all of that stuff would still be in there, gumming up the motor and restricting the movement of the motor if we didn't use this injection process to force it out. And believe me, that makes a huge difference. It makes a huge difference. Starting to now, again, I think when a machine looks better, it makes the owner feel better about the machine, and knowing that Jean is getting ready to take this machine to a quilting retreat, I wanted to spend time on the finish of the machine as well. So now I'm starting to clean up the paint and the decals. And just be careful what solution you use on the surface. It's got to be safe so that it's not going to cause damage to the clear coat. Really starting to come out now with the shine. Back over by the balance wheel area and the main shaft, getting that all cleaned up. You see the beauty of the machine starting to come back out. It's coming out of the ashes and it's becoming the phoenix that we want it to be. We may have gone full circle. That's the pulley for our output shaft on the motor. No, not yet. It's the lock ring for the stop action. There it is. That's looking better. That's looking a lot better. That's even looking more better. Constant and never-ending improvement. There we go. We've got a fully optimized motor, a repaired motor, and pulleys and everything where that power is going to transfer up to that main shaft has been cleaned, optimized, and adjusted. We've got a powerhouse on this little featherweight now, as you've seen in this premiere already. There's our thread guide and our tensioner right there for winding a bobbin, and you can just see how filthy it is. Take that off, and also the well below it is also filthy too. Yeah, I'll leave it like that. It keeps cutting the pictures off for some reason. Busy workbench, all kinds of stuff going on. There's that well I talked about that's below that tensioner for bobbin winding. All the crud and veneering and varnish and buildup in there is just unbelievable. Isn't that disgusting? We're going to go after it. That's our bobbin case, so essential in the brain center of the machine, and it is definitely not ready to get the job done. Here's our raceway area with the hook system, and you can see how filthy that is as well. One of the most essential areas of the machine because it's where all the magic happens with those two threads coming together and creating beautiful stitches. Taking it apart all the way down as far as I feel like I need to go to get rid of all the junk and buildup and crud in there, and also make appropriate adjustments as well so we're getting great stitch output and thread flow. Tilting the machine back now because we're going to be focusing on other areas of the machine that we wouldn't be able to get to as easily if we stayed in the prone position that it normally sets in. More cleaning, more cleaning. There we're looking at on the left, we're looking at the bobbin case. On the right, we're looking at part of the jib and the hook system. more cleaning. Now we're getting to where we need to be. We're getting close to getting it ready. Putting it back together now. This is a little bit tricky of a hook system to put together. So if you decide to take it on, take your time and be really careful. And that's our beginning point, where we took a very sick, unhealthy motor that anyone else would have just replaced it, and I made it as good as new. So our next set of photos that we'll do after we do another sew-off, we'll be focusing on some of the teeny tiny little parts you have to deal with when you're going through a machine at this level, which includes screws and bolts that are, that's a penny. You get an idea of how tiny that little bolt is. All right, let's go back over to Jean's machine. Isn't that a lovely machine? From 1949. Specific birth date, March 15th, 1949. Only 40,000 machines were made in that production group, making this machine more rare than the average Singer Featherweight. Very cool. Very, very cool. All right, let's head back down to the needle. Right as the music ends. How do I do that? It's like a superpower. Yeah, I doubt that. So that was called Vital Whales. Vital Whales. The Stoic and the Sailor is the next one. I'm going to turn the volume way down. Way down. The Stoic and the Sailor. What should we try to sew next? Along with that, should I grab some bubble gum real quick maybe, huh? Where did I put my bubble gum down here? Help, Dr. Singer, I've been robbed, I've been robbed. I guess I'll have to go without bubble gum. I really felt like bubble gum right at that moment though. You ever get a craving for bubble gum? I mean, am I alone in that? Or do all of us get a craving for bubble gum sometimes? I think so. Well, why don't we go light side again? I think we just did 100% cotton, right? Why don't we do some satin? And I'm going to sew down the right side so that Jean can sew down. I'm going to sew down the left side, excuse me, so Jean can sew down the right side. And I will try to sew straight as I did on the cotton. No promises, but I'll give it a go. Should probably, let me do this. Let me sew down this side. I think it'll give me a little bit more control in trying to stay straight. All right, take-up arm at the highest position. Everything else looks like it's good to go. All right, so now we're going to be sewing 2 layers of rice paper thin satin. We've done cotton, we're going to do satin, and then we're also going to do our 100% polyester ribbon material as well, just so that we have the assurance that the machine, even sewing with a leather needle, is able to get the job done with lighter materials too. All right, here we go. Satin makes me a little bit nervous. I don't have a lot of experience with it. We've only introduced it recently. I picked some up and I thought, I'd like to do this. All right, here we go. I jiggled a little bit on the end, but I kept it generally pretty straight. I generally kept it straight. Oh, wow. Wow! That is some gorgeous stitching. I almost feel like I want to sew it again and do like a closer to a satin style stitch. That would be tricky on this stuff, wouldn't it? That's why we should do it. It is the Sewing Olympics, folks. We don't want to do easy peasy stuff. We want to really test Jean's machine, right? Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Okay, so I sewed down. Which way did I do this? I sewed it like this, down the right side. So now just right next to it, let's reduce that stitch size. I'm on 6 stitches per inch. I'm going to go to right around between 10 to 12. And then I'll still leave enough space to the left of it where if Jean wants to sew this satin too, she can do that. Is that cool? Yeah, it is. Okay, let's give this a go. 10 to 12 stitches per inch down 2 rice paper thin layers of satin. Here we go. Ha ha ha! I'm getting better at sewing straight. I don't know what it is. Maybe because I didn't chew the bubble gum, huh? Dr. Singer hit it because he was like, every time Scott chews bubble gum, he gets distracted by chewing the bubble gum, and he doesn't sew straight. So I'm going to hide it on him. All right, I'll remember that, Dr. Singer. I'll remember that. I just love this embroidery yellow thread on this kind of charcoaly satin. Oh my gosh, it is like wow. Wow! All right, let me get my little stitch holder out and I'll set this over here and we'll take a look at these stitches. I just want to check myself. Yes, that is correct. So we're going to look at the top stitch first, obviously, and then I'll flip it over and we'll look at the lock stitch on these 2 layers of incredibly thin, slippery satin. Where are we? There we are. So totality of the stitching, it's already impressing me. I know how difficult this material is to sew, which is why we do it. So let's go across now and look at our top stitch, which is around 6 stitches per inch, and then I dropped it all the way down 10 to 12 stitches per inch. Let me just angle that. Let me start over and angle that a little bit more. Don't quite have enough angle on it. There we go. Unbelievable. And this is with a leather needle, folks. Just absolutely gorgeous stitching. And this is our top stitch. Absolutely spectacular. I'm going to go totality right. I'll stop right about there. I don't want to go all the way out. Makes it harder to see it. Folks, those are absolutely page 34 stitching. Absolutely page 34 stitching. Let me flip it around. We'll look at that lock stitch. So this is our lock stitch, 2 layers of very tricky satin with a really cool pattern as a backdrop. Kind of messes with your eyes a little bit, but look, we'll do this backwards this time. There's our totality of stitching. Totality of stitching. Now we're going to zoom in on it and we'll take a look at these 2 stitch rows comparatively. And I'm already seeing page 34, folks. Let me zoom back in. The spacing, the formation, the integrity of the stitch. Absolutely as it should be. The space allowance that you have when you sew something this thin, to be able to get that knot centered in material this paper thin, it really is a testimony to how well Jean's machine is running now. A definite page 34. I'm going to throw that to the back with the other sew-offs that we've already done live on the premiere. Our sew-off sandwich continues to build, and eventually I'll show it to you. But we've got a little ways to go yet. Got a little ways to go yet. Yeah, I really wish I could have used those West German engineered gold-plated needles, but you know, again, I got them with a machine many years ago, and it's possible that they already were used or abused by somebody, and that's why they're not performing now. Maybe the original ones did well, but you know, there's no barbing on them, so it may just be maybe the way they build the needle or something. What did I want to do next? Maybe I'll pop back over to Facebook again. Let's just pause right there for a second. The Stoic and the Sailor is the one we just heard. Early Avril. We've heard this one too recently. All right. A penny for your thoughts is what I should call this next segment. A penny for your thoughts. And I can't tell you how many times myself and my leadership team have gotten notes from people that have decided to be adventurous and have decided to take on, you know, servicing their machine at a depth which is beyond their depth. And they've run into problems with losing little bolts like this and or forgetting how to put it back together. Yeah. Okay. There's our new friend. Anyone have any suggestions on her name? I'm also not absolutely sure about her origin. Where is she from originally? Maybe the hat kind of gives us a clue, huh? Or the braids. I don't think she's from Switzerland. Do you? Maybe she is. Or maybe she's Dutch. Maybe she's from Brooklyn and she just dresses like Boy George. You never know, kid. It's possible. So, out of order as usual, I think. I don't know here if I've already cleaned the hook raceway system or whether or not I'm putting it back together. Might be putting it back together. But in any case, there's a lot of stuff happening on the workbench right now, as you can readily see. Oh, we're going after the faceplate area now, which it definitely needs help. Look at that crud. Oh my goodness. Look at those feed dogs. Those Facebook groups will tell you just brush off the feed dogs from up top. And you can even use a typing brush like that guy from Wisconsin. But you're going to miss a lot. You're going to miss a lot. Oh yeah, you will. Holy mackerel. That was after we brushed over it. And now we're going into it deeper and look at all the stuff we're getting out. Holy jolly ranchers. And remember I talked about this sill that runs around here that the plates go over. You've got to really go after that very carefully. Because, that was a perfect point, transition right there with that dramatic piano hitting there. Because otherwise those plates are not going to sit flush. And and you're going to lose the effectiveness of the feed dogs. Look at all that stuff we're getting off of there. Everything has to be addressed. Oh yeah. Yeah. That's impact. More to go. More to go. Ugh. Yuck. How is that possible? The machine looks so pretty from the outside. Oh yeah. There we go. There we go. There we go. The workshop magic. Yuck. That looked like it was almost clean, and we're getting more off of it. There's our upper tension torn all the way down so that we'll be able to deliver and give us a beautiful what? What does the upper tension do? What does it regulate as far as our sewing? Does it regulate the top stitch? That would make sense because it's closest to the top stitch. Or does it regulate something else? Type it in the chat. Type it in the chat right now. Let's see if you nail it. So many parts, and each one needs the proper attention. Some have to be clean. Some have to be lubricated. Some have to be oiled. Some have to be oil-free. Look at all that filth. And those are the tension discs. More filth everywhere. How is it possible that this princess of singers could look like a princess on the outside but be such a dirty little girl? Yes, she is. Ugh! Yikes. Jiminy crickets. That's part of the light assembly, folks. How's it supposed to light up the bed like this? When it looks like that. It's all part of the assembly, folks. Yikers. There's the socket that the bulb goes in, and that's filthy too. Look at those contacts that the bulb would connect to. We are definitely not going to get a bright light like that. Busy, 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 busy. Very busy. There's our girl. I'm not looking at the chat. I wonder if any of you came up with really cool names for her. Yeah. And she's a working girl too, by the way. She grabbed that dental tool and said, "Let me help." Mr. Bean would never do that. No way. Oh, cool. Herr Obermeister brought over an Oreo. I don't know if he's going to share it with her or if he brought it for me. I won't tell you who took a bite out of that. Oh, that faceplate's looking better, Herr Obermeister. Well done. Sehr gut. Sehr schön. Busy, 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 busy. Going after all those individual parts of the upper tension that control the lock stitch. Yes, it does. Upper tension controls the lock stitch. The bobbin case controls the top stitch. You see how filthy they are? Even that spring, look at my finger. It's not just dirty, it's oily. Boo! Getting our friend's approval. Also just showing her the progress we're making. Very nice. Very, very nice. Oh yeah. Yeah. Herr Obermeister checking things out. It has been transformed. That upper tension was not even working properly, and now it's going to work like just to perfection. And we're back at the beginning. Close that set, and we'll head back to the machine. In the next set, we're going to be opening up, showing that upper tension again in its restored state. Again, any of those Facebook groups or other places that tell you all you have to do is run something between the discs, swab something through the discs, you'll be good to go. You can see why that is absolutely a fallacy. Night, run away. Night, run away. Turn the volume down. Yeah, let's turn the volume down a little bit more. There we go. All right, let's head back to Jean's machine, shall we? Turn our light back on and head back down to the needle. All right, camera, stop moving. You silly thing. What shall we sew next? I've got acrylic fiber, I've got compressed felt, I've got canvas, two different types of canvas. I have U.S. Army grade canvas and I have another commercial style canvas. Ooh, and I even have, I've got some other light sew-offs too. Let's go heavy. Let's go to some denim. Denim is a common thing that a lot of people will sew on their featherweight. So we're going to start with 2 layers. I'm going to fold it in half. I'm going to fold it one more time to get us up to 4. And then one more time to get us all the way up to 6 layers of denim on a featherweight. Not a common occurrence, folks. I'll tell you that right now. Probably will give some featherweight owners a heart attack that I'm sewing 6 layers of heavy grade denim, but that's okay. They're probably near a hospital anyway, so. And our stitch length right now is at 10 to 12. I'm going to drop it back down and give us a longer stitch. All right, let's give this a go. Let's see how this little featherweight handles 6 layers of heavy grade denim. Here we go. It's kind of restricting a little bit. Could you hear that? I was kind of holding it back and it was like getting mad at me, so I can't. All right, I'll give you some more gas. I'll give you some more gas. Six layers of denim we just went through. And as you could tell, I wasn't even very far down on the pedal. That's why the machine was like, hey, give me more. Well, let's see if we can just set this by the needle, see if it'll cooperate. Probably not. All right, that's our top stitch right there. You can already see the beautiful stitching. You can already see the page 34. Zooming in on it, let's go across. Pause right there. Pause right there. Absolutely page 34 stitching. I'm going to come out to totality of the stitching. It's just amazing to me. Other featherweights would not be able to do this, and Jean's got it done with absolute ease, even though I was holding its gas back a little bit. And it laid down page 34 stitching. I'm going to spin it around. Let's take a look at that lock stitch. Again, the lock stitch is going to be tougher for the machine to generate than the top stitch. Let's take a look at this lock stitch. Kind of like I'm sewing uphill there almost, doesn't it? 6 layers of heavy grade denim, folks. And this is our lock stitch. Pause right there. Pause right there. Unbelievable. We'll go back one more time just so you can see it again, but that is absolutely page 34 stitching. Unbelievable. Beautiful. Totality of the stitching. It's a pass. Duh. I'm going to throw it to the back. 6 layers. Look at that from the side, folks. 6 layers of heavy grade denim. Unbelievable. On a featherweight. On Jean's featherweight. On Jean's supercharged repaired featherweight. Unbelievable. Crazy, crazy, crazy. It's fun, isn't it? Let's do another sew off. So we just went heavy duty, right? Let's bounce back and do lightweight. I'm seeing some ribbon material that's saying, hey, put me on camera, put me on camera. Pick me, pick me. Okay, we can do that. Two layers of 100% polyester ribbon material. Let's see how Jean's Featherweight manages this sew off. Here we go. Down to the finish. I'm not going to close the box. Send me a nasty note. It's fine. Okay. So we've got 100% polyester. Tricky stuff to sew. Any of you that know anything about polyester, it is like sewing snot. It's really, really tough stuff. I know I just said snot. Sorry about that. Unbelievable stitching. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Let's get our stitch holder out. Although I'd like to put it, can I put it by the needle? Will it be nice? I think it'll be nice. Stuff's actually molting. Let's see if we can do that. I'd like to set it by the needle if I can. I think that would be cool. So that was Night Runaway, then Chocolate Cookie Jam. We've heard this one more than once. Matter of fact, let me grab something else real quick. Hold on a second. Let's do some cinematic. Nightmares In. Boy, there's a good song to play. This ought to be pretty cool. Nightmares In. Let's take a look at these stitches. Can't tell if that's helping or not. So this is our top stitch, and I can already tell you, pausing right there, page 34, folks. Jean, you're going to have so much fun. Everyone will hate you at your quilting retreat, just so you know. Just be ready for it. Be ready for the hate. I am not even going to go around again. That would insult your intelligence. That is absolutely page 34 stitching, folks. Let me spin it around. Let's look at that lock stitch. Lock stitch always wants to give me a hard time about being nice, staying still. All right, let's give that a try. This is our lock stitch. Again, 2 layers of ribbon material, 100% polyester. Even from here, and a lock stitch, again, is going to be a lot trickier on this material. It's absolutely spot on. Let's zoom in on it and take a closer look. Oh my goodness. I don't even have the best angle, and it's just like, wow, wow! Pause. Wow. Totality of the stitching again is just off the charts. It's off the charts. I'm going to give that a page 34 plus. Throwing that to the back, let's take a look at our live premiere sew-off sandwich so far, and then I'll join it together with my off-camera stuff. So far, this is what we've done on this live premiere. Most people would consider that to be more than enough to prove the point. You know what I'm saying? We're going to try to push it a little bit further. Even though we've sewed a field of sew-offs that's off the charts. Now, if I join it together with my off-camera stuff, this is what I've done so far on this machine. Where else on YouTube, on the internet, are you going to see somebody put a machine to this level of testing, a sewing Olympics, before it's allowed to graduate from the workshop, before Jean can take it to her quilting retreat and have all the ladies hate her and be envious of her? Yeah. Haters are going to hate, right? Yeah, they are. Just tell them to get a featherweight from me, or to get a featherweight and bring it to the workshop. For good, it's easy to get over the hate. It's so easy. So easy. S-E-W. S-O. M-O-U-S-E. Mickey Mouse, Mickey Mouse. All right, should I do one more sew-off? And then we have 2 more sets of photos that I would like to share with you. So let's do one more sew-off, and then we'll go back to our progress shots. I really want you to see the value in the progress shots. I know you love to hear the machine, see the machine, be amazed as to what the machine is able to do now. But you got to understand the progress that brought it to that level, that made it be able to do that. Without understanding the progress and the process, what's the point? Let's do some commercial upholstery material now, okay? Let's do some commercial upholstery material. So I'm folding it in half. It gets us up to 2 layers. Folding it over one more time, and it gets us all the way up to 6 layers of commercial material. And I am 3,000 miles away from the needle. Let me get this under the needle and fix that. I'm glad I looked over my shoulder. That was weird. That was so weird. Presser foot is down. Look at that from the side, even from this distance. We're sewing, I mean, it looks like we're sewing a couch. Literally. We're sewing a couch right now. That's what we're doing. We're doing a couch, Mom. So that was Nightmares in Empire Seasons. Empire Seasons. Down more. Empire Their seasons. Too loud. They're very excited about their seasons. Okay, this is going to be 6 layers. Where did I get 3? This is going to be 6 layers of commercial upholstery material. And again, we're using embroidery thread, trilobal, I believe is what it's called. Trilobal embroidery thread by Coats & Clark, and a size 90-14 leather needle. All right, down and around. Here we go. It's really mad at me because I'm holding it back, but I want to make sure that I have some control here. Down to the finish. Here we go. Holy jolly ranchers, wait until you see these stitches. That's the advantage of being here at the workbench, is I get to see them before you, and it's like, wow, wow! I'll be honest with you, I might just stop here. We're getting tight on time anyway. I've got a customer arriving soon. Unbelievable. Oh my goodness. Look at that again, what we just went through, folks. 6 layers of commercial upholstery material with a featherweight. And a featherweight that had a seriously damaged motor that I repaired. And now it's delivering power that is equal, if not greater than what it was doing when it left the factory. Insane. Absolutely insane. All right, let's look at these. This is our top stitch. 6 layers of commercial upholstery material. Let's go around and look at these. I already know what we're going to see, but let's see let's see it together. I'm not even going to go around again, folks. I'm just not. Totality of the stitching is absolutely spot on. That's our top stitch. Let's turn it over and look at the lock stitch. This is our lock stitch, again through 6 layers of commercial upholstery material. Upholsterers that are professionals in doing this all day long would bow if they were here when they see this little featherweight delivering at this level. Let's look at both at the same time. It's kind of fun. This is our lock stitch. Unbelievable. Absolutely off the charts. Unbelievable. That's nuts. Totality of the stitching. This is beyond page 34. I don't even know what to do with this. Honestly. I'll tell you what I'm going to do with it. I'm going to throw it to the back as a pass with the other sew-offs that were done on camera and off camera, and just go, never ever write me a note and tell me that a featherweight can't do this kind of stuff, because you can rewind this and watch it as many times as you want. And after all of that sewing, I just was curious. I just reached back and touched the motor. It's absolutely, I mean, it's ambient temperature. You come on this here. I just got to show you this. I just got to show you for fun. There's the motor right over there, right? There, look at that sew-off mountain. Holy mackerel. It's my heat gun. All the sewing that we've done on this machine Is that focusing? Can't tell. 77.5 degrees. That is the picture of optimization. Something that is not optimized may be able to, whoa, that was weird. Something that is not optimized may be able to get the job done, but that motor is going to be running hot and working hard. This motor is laughing at the sew-offs that we're doing, literally. It's literally laughing at these sew-offs. All right, I'm going to do one more sew-off, I think. I've got other materials we could sew. I'm just trying to decide what I want to sew. Why don't I do U.S. Army grade canvas? I'm going to try that. I haven't sewed U.S. Army grade canvas in a long time. So I've got, let me check my camera angle. Yep, perfect. I'm going to fold it over and get us up to 2 layers. Fold it again, get us up to 4, and then one last time to get us all the way up to 6 layers. I'm trying to find the right angle here. 6 layers of U.S. Army grade canvas. Okay? Single layer or single sew down. We're going to finish up some Facebook shots. I might squeak one more sew off in, I'm not sure. Depends on how much time I got because I have a customer arriving very shortly. And then we're going to wrap this premiere up. I am just so impressed with this 1949 featherweight. Unbelievable. All right, so here we're doing 6 layers of U.S. Army grade canvas. I'm going to go ahead and jump into this without any extra delay or blah, blah, blah. All right, here we go. Ooh, U.S. Army gave it a little bit of a challenge there, huh? Nice. Did you see that? I didn't give it enough gas, and that U.S. Army grade canvas said, "You've been flaunting your strength the whole premiere. It's time for the Army strong to put a little stop to you." And that's, I mean, emphasize little stop. I mean, like a microsecond of pausing, and then it said, "Okay, I got you. I got you. I got you." Unbelievable. Folks, that's what we just sewed right there. 6 layers of U.S. Army grade canvas. I could just stop right here and say, look at that, page 34, lock stitch. Page 34. But we're going to look at it in more detail. This is probably going to be our final sew off, so I want you to see it up close and personal. Here's our top stitch to begin with. And I haven't sewed U.S. Army grade canvas in a while, quite a while. Unbelievable. Pause. Pause. Pause again. I'm not even going to go back again. Totality of the stitching is absolutely a solid page 34. Let me spin it around. We'll look at that lock stitch. I'm going to try to look at the lock stitch. Come on. Ah! Spin these clips the other way. Holy mackerel. Getting that material lined up so we could look at the stitching was more difficult than the sew-off. Let's zoom in on these straight away. Take a look at these as far as the lock stitching. Absolutely gorgeous stitching. I might bump up the upper tension just slightly. If I were sewing a ton of this stuff, I probably would. Just to make it even more poppy. As a matter of fact, since this might be our last sew off, even though I think we've got a near page 34, slight bump up on upper tension. We haven't made a single tension adjustment until we came up against this U.S. Army grade canvas. Of course, we've sewn a ton of stuff on this needle, right? But this is our first adjustment that we've had to make. So with a slightly underserved lock stitch, I just bumped up the upper tension slightly. We were right around 5.5. I went up to about 6 1/4. Now we're going to try sewing down this one more time and seeing if we brought an impact. All right, here we go. And this time I'm going to give a little bit more gas so that this featherweight does not have to hit that U.S. Army grade canvas and have that Army try to flex its muscles and say, good luck, buddy, good luck. So here we go. Final sew off in all likelihood. 6 layers of U.S. Army grade canvas. Our second time doing it, so we can try to get a little bit better defined lock stitch. Here we go. Once I get my foot on the foot controller, here we go. All right. Take that, U.S. Army grade canvas. Take that. Take that, you bully. Picking on a little featherweight. So there's our top stitch. We didn't lose a thing. The top row is the one we just did. The top row is the one we just did. So if I turn it like this, the bottom row is going to be our second sew off. And that is absolutely bang on as far as a lock stitch. Exactly what we wanted to see happen. Can you see the difference? It's just night and day. It's night and day. Night and day. Unbelievable. As a matter of fact, I'm going to leave it right there for a second. Give me 2 seconds here. And put an L right there for lock stitch. Isn't it great when you understand the concept of the tug of war with stitching, so that when you run into you're using a material you haven't used in a while, or maybe you never used it, and you can make a modest adjustment, and then all of a sudden whatever obstacle was challenging you is just in a matter of seconds. It's just like done, done, done. So first of all, I'm just double checking. So the bottom row is our lock stitch. I'm going to spin it like this. Yep. So I'm going to go like this past the camera so you can see it. Bottom row is our second sew off. Top row is our first sew off. I'm just double checking again. Yep. Both rows for that top stitch are absolutely as they should be. Absolutely as they should be. All right, let's turn it around. Now the top row is going to be the first stitch row we did for the lock stitch. Then we made our adjustment to get a better defined lock stitch. The bottom row is our second stitch row. It's so obvious, isn't it? It's so obvious, the impact that we brought. Page 34 all over the place. The other one was provisional page 34 as far as the lock stitch. We made that little adjustment and now it's a solid page 34. I love victory, don't you? Don't you love victory? Let me set this in front of Jean's machine so you can look at this sew off mountain that we did on camera and off camera. This is what the real deal looks like, folks. This is what the real deal looks like. Any of you that do follow Facebook and saw me post a picture of the guy riding his bicycle with a huge load of fabric piled on the back of his bike, it's kind of what this looks like, doesn't it? And you think about the diverse field of sew-offs we did. We didn't do window dressing. We did leathers. We did canvas. We did commercial canvas. We did commercial upholstery material. We did light stuff. Everything. Everything under the sun. And that's what it looks like. So I am declaring without reservation that this little featherweight that arrived with a damaged motor and innumerable challenges holding it back is definitely ready to rock the world of anything that Jean wants to put that machine through, without a doubt. Let's play Russian River while we look at some more photos to wrap up this premiere. What an amazing featherweight. What an amazing featherweight. So there's our upper tension. It's been fully optimized. And it's ready to, that's my reminder that my customer is arriving shortly. Isn't this a fun sound and annoying at the same time? Yeah, dismiss. You're dismissed. So at any rate, I can't emphasize enough, the reason we were able to just do that final sew-off with the U.S. Army grade canvas and resolve the difficulties so easily is because of this progress shot right here of tearing that upper tension all the way down, optimizing each component of it appropriately. Again, some of the components need to be dry, other components need to be oiled. Everything needs to be cleaned. And with that subtle little adjustment, we were able to overcome the challenge with that U.S. Army grade canvas because of this. That's why the progress shots are so essential, that you see why. Now we're looking at the bottom of the machine, and we have some wiring coating that degraded and was contaminating the entire bottom of the machine. Now we're back at the top of the machine. See, I just jump all over the place, making sure the well is clean so we can reinsert that upper tension. And look at the filth I just got out of there. That could have been left behind, and if you went to a service center, it would have been left behind easily. That's why sending your, if you don't want mediocrity, if you want excellence like Jean, there's no other place to send your machine in the world but to the workshop. Even this, look at, she's looking at it and saying, that's the way it should be, and I'm brand new to this. She doesn't know a thing about sewing machines, but she knows what clean and she knows what correct looks like. That's what filth looks like right there. Now we're getting in the direction that we need to be going. There we go. There we go. Yes. Yes. We're getting in the direction we need to be going now. You didn't see it, but she gave it a quick thumbs up. There we go. Let's put it back together now. Let's reassemble that upper tension. What do you think, Herr Obermeister? All right, let's do it. Let's do it. Plus we have a light assembly we still have to deal with as well. All right, you guys, let's get this done. Let's get this done. Beautiful, beautiful job. Unbelievable. This is the Rolls-Royce treatment to this Princess of Singers. Hey, we could call her Princess. Type in the chat if you think she's a princess. Every part of that light assembly has to be cleaned, including the reflective portion, so that that LED light can be maximized. Now we're going to get rid of that incandescent. We're going to go LED. all that stuff from that wiring coating degrading. Look at that. You see that? And now that insulation portion of the wiring is pretty much all gone. There's a thin coating. Look at these worm gears. They're absolutely bone dry and filthy. Plus they're contaminated by that coating falling down on them as well. Very, very busy surface. Here Obermeister's trying to help out as well because it's such a big job. Even filth down there as well. And I'm using a vacuum cleaner to try to suck some of that extra stuff up, and then also breaking off the loose pieces with our typing brush and getting to the areas that are more hard to get to with the dental tools. Look at that basin down at the bottom that's designed. The absorbent pad is actually separated from it. See that? That's the old glue base there along with some filth and oil. We got to get it clean first, and then we're going to reattach the absorbent pad to it. Look at all that stuff we're getting off of there. And that's a special oil resistant adhesive that I've laid down on that clean bed now, and now we're going to reattach the pad. I didn't want that pad to be detached because then if Jean took the bottom off, they would separate, and that pad could even fall on her clothing or on the floor and just get it filthy. There we go. Yes! That would not happen at a service center, folks, but it's going to happen here at the workshop. Now we're recoating that entire that entire electrical cable that's adjacent to these worm gears so that it's properly insulated. Applying it initially with a dental tool and then distributing it evenly with a real fine paintbrush. There we go. Yes. Yes. That's how it should look. That's how it should look. Not to mention it's going to be safer that way too. Doing a preheat on it with my torch. You can see the blue flame there, drying that stuff. More inspections. And also closing the clamp on that wire so that it's not making contact with those worm gears. It literally was when I took the bottom off. Let's get those worm gears clean and get proper lubricant on them. Maybe that'll happen in the next phase of photos. I think it will. Yeah, we've already seen these. So now we're going to get proper lubricant. Now that we've got those worm gears clean, now we're going to properly lube them and then go into our final off-camera sew-offs, which is what you're seeing across the front of the machine right there. This level of attention is surgical level, and it makes all the difference in the world in protecting, preserving, and the performance of the machines as well. Now we're going to the fine servicing and optimizing of the machine. Busy workbench. Herr Obermeister and our friend checking things out. Additional inspections and cleaning. Hardly can read that serial plate right now. That's going to change. Look at that. We were here. Now we're here. Look at that serial plate again. Look at all that filth on there that we're getting off of there. That's what optimization looks like. That's what the workshop magic looks like. Some gooey stuff on the bottom of there, and I'm using some of that undo stuff that Paula sent me, along with some other solutions I have and some polishing agents, and trying to get that back the way it should be. Look at that serial plate now. And it's not just a matter of you can read it easier, but it's not filthy any longer. And there's our machine right on the brink of being ready to do the premiere. Right on the brink. Oh yeah. Yeah. And I'll just point out real quick that that branding plate on the front of the machine is different between the two featherweights. The one on the 221 right now that belongs to Jean and my 222K, totally different medallions. More finalization. Now we're getting ready to wind a bobbin. And we're jumping into our off-camera sew-offs. Our friend is using that magnifier to make sure the stitches are page 34. Here Obermeister is helping clip threads. See, my game plan was to use those needles and we couldn't do it. Those are the gold-plated needles out of West Germany. Along with Jean's manual, the 221K. There's some of our stitching. That is absolutely page 34. Absolutely page 34. And again, sewing the range from 6 stitches per inch all the way down to the satin range. More sew-offs. More sew-offs. Aren't those gorgeous? More leather sew-offs. Spectacular. Amazing. Just like the ones you saw live on the premiere today. Unbelievable. There's my off-camera denim and more leather sewing that I've duplicated during this live premiere. Duplicated that as well. Unbelievable. Page 34. Yeah, Herr Obermeister, I agree. She's ready. She's ready for the premiere. She is ready for the premiere. And there's the beginning, which also marks the end. We just did Russian River. Let's try Slingshot. That sounds fun. Well, what a pleasure it is to have a troubled machine arrive at the workshop. A filthy princess of singers. And to be able to take her to this level, not only does she look great, like most princesses do, but she is totally optimized. The motor is better than when it was new, even though it had serious damage to it. And where's the proof in the pudding? That's the proof in the pudding right there. Not a bunch of still shots, but all the sew-offs that you witnessed during this premiere today. Not to mention just how gorgeous she is. Like I said, Jean, have fun taking this princess of singers to this quilting retreat or whatever it is that you're going to. But be prepared for those ladies to hate you, because you're going to have all these sew-offs with you. Plus, they'll be able to see her sew there, and they're going to be like, my featherweight won't do anything close to that. And then I'll include a couple of cards that you can take with you, and you can say, send it to Scott. Send it to Scott. He'll take care of it for you. Yes, he will. Yes, he will. This amazing featherweight 221, born March 15, 1949. One of only 40,000 in its production group, and it is a treasure upon treasures. Yes, it is. All right, lights off in the workshop. Let's get ready to meet this customer and to make another miracle happen with the workshop magic. See ya. God bless. Oh, wait a second. Class is over. Take care, everybody.